KETV Newswatch 7, chronicling the stories impacting our community. Stories making a difference. Stories that matter to you. This is KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle.
Had a great reaction from the people of Omaha so far. Been a lot of hard work, but just going to continue to do the hard work to continue to spread my message and to spread my new vision for the city of Omaha. So my platform, my vision for Omaha is focused on bringing in new revenues to the city, driving down costs for taxpayers to look for strategic opportunities where we can outsource city functions so that we can drive down costs for taxpayers, to start to overhaul our street maintenance. And we really need to revitalize and strengthen North Omaha. So we have a lot of heavy lifting to do in that part of the city, and that's my focus.
So as you can see, 26-year-old Taylor Royal has a vision for Omaha, and he wants to be the city's next mayor. Good morning, I'm Rob McCartney. This is KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle. Today, the second of 5 shows dedicated to the upcoming mayor's race and the primary April 4th. Between now and then, we'll talk with each of the men and women running: Christopher Geary, Taylor Royal, Ian McHale, Heath Mello, and Gene Stothert. The final show will air 2 weeks before you vote. And all the chronicles with the candidates will be online at KETV.com. All right, this morning, Taylor Royal. First, a few facts about Royal. According to his website, he grew up in Omaha, went to Skutt Catholic High School. During that time, he worked at Hy-Vee and played soccer. In fact, a check of our archives revealed this highlight from 2006. In the first round of the state tournament, Skutt gets a corner kick, and that is Taylor Royal right there with the header. It's just high as it glances off the crossbar, but Skutt went on to beat Blair that day, 3-1. All right, after high school, Royal earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with a double major in accounting and finance. He moved to Dallas, where he graduated with a Master of Science in accounting from Southern Methodist University. He's worked at Deloitte, now works for Northwestern Mutual. And one of Royal's biggest ideas for revitalizing Omaha is to make it an even bigger football town.
Omaha, Nebraska, I believe, is ready to host an NFL team in an NFL stadium, and that stadium should crown our riverfront. There's a beautiful patch of land that overlooks a pedestrian bridge and a view of the downtown right next to Gallup, and I think that's where we need to place an NFL team.
And joining us now to talk more about that and much more is Taylor Royal. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely glad to be here.
So first off, why'd you decide to run?
Yep, so spending time away down in Dallas, Texas, I got a different flavor outside the 4 walls of Omaha, so to speak. So I saw a very active mayor in Dallas, and I saw a very active governor as well. And so those guys were out there promoting Dallas, they're out there promoting Texas as just a great place to come and start a business, great place to come in and expand opportunities for growth. And I saw the fruit of that. I saw lots of businesses moving down there, lots of people moving down there as well. And when I moved back 2 years ago, it was at a time when ConAgra was just leaving. So ConAgra, a company that was incubated here, was pulling up stakes and leaving. They were moving to Chicago. And so that was a big red flag for me. And so I started to do some research on, what is the health of Omaha? What's the health of the city? And so started to look at, Omaha's pavement conditions, and then also our leasing space here in the city. And so when I started to check that out, I saw a couple statistics that 78% of Omaha's road or pavement conditions is either mediocre and poor condition, so that's not a good stat. And then also, if you drive up and down Dodge, 132nd and Center, downtown at where ConAgra used to be, and then also north on 680, where ConAgra's campus was as well, we have big leasing space available, and so it's just not showing a good, healthy environment. And so when ConAgra is pulling up stakes and leaving $28 million of tax incentives on the table, it begins to be a red flag. And so I came to the conclusion that I believe that we have failed leadership here in this city, and that a lot of the things that were facing us 4 years ago or even beyond are still plaguing us today. And so I think that we need to change.
Gotcha. Now, you're 26 years old.
27.
27, yes. You just turned 27? Okay,
just
good.
Turned 27.
And some people might see that as a liability. Do you see that as a liability or as an asset?
I see that as an advantage for a number of different reasons. One is my experience. So I'm a CPA. I worked at Deloitte, and we, I think, all understand how vital taxes are to businesses where they're going to come expand, invest, grow, hire, as well as for people where they want to plant themselves in different cities based on different tax perspectives. And So anyways, I spent a lot of time in business, have an accounting and finance degree, as well as my master's and a CPA as well.
Right.
But I haven't spent, years networking my way up through the Democratic Republican Party, unlike the people who I'm, running against. So Mayor Stothert, 20 years in local politics here, started off in the school board, city council, and now the mayor. And what benefit have we seen from that so-called experience or wisdom? I don't think that we've seen a benefit here. And I believe that Heath Mello is, cut from the same cloth, that he jumped right into politics after he graduated with a political science degree. And his kind of claim to fame is that he was the appropriations chairman. And now the state of Nebraska, as a result of that, when he left, now faces a $900 million shortfall on the state level, and he wants the steering wheel for the city of Omaha that has a $900 million budget. I don't think that's the type of wisdom or expertise that we need. I think that the problems that we face here in Omaha need a business mindset, and that's what I bring to the table.
So you think the state's, you're putting the state's budget shortfall, if you will, on Mello's lap?
I think, he was the appropriations chairman at the time. I believe that he played a hand in that. Obviously, there are many other factors involved with that, but I believe that, there shows just a lack of leadership in that regard.
You're a registered Republican, correct?
I am, yep.
Would you be bipartisan in this bipartisan job?
I would. So I consider myself a true conservative in my ideology. Like I said, I have not spent years networking my way up through any party, and I think that's a huge benefit because, one, the issues that we face and the issues that I've seen, knocking on doors and talking to the citizens of Omaha, is that we have people problems here. We don't have a Republican or Democratic problem. We have, streets that are just littered with potholes. We have companies that are, pulling up stakes and leaving, and we haven't made really any sort of headway, I believe, in North Omaha. And so we have a lot to do, and I believe it takes a business mindset to do this.
Okay, you mentioned streets a couple times now. Let's talk about the pavement problems in the streets. I mean, potholes, that is a perennial problem. Everybody hates them. How do you fix them? How do you pay for it?
How do we fix and how do we pay? So the private sector is figured out long before, has learned a lot of things that we as a city have failed to learn. And so there's a company here in town called Union Pacific. And so these guys used to source their aggregate. The aggregate is a large rock material that makes up what we put into our concrete, what we pour into our streets. And so they used to source this aggregate from out in western Nebraska to pour into their railroad ties. And what they found is that this stuff would just disintegrate so quickly as a result of what type of aggregate they're sourcing. They found that this stuff is just so sandy that's very sand-based. And so I started to do some research on, one, this is where our city sources its aggregate. So we're pouring poor spec aggregate right into our streets, which is costing the taxpayers, a lot of money, and that's why we haven't been able to really move the ball forward in that regard. And so I started to study what other cities are doing that face the same sort of situation, the same weather band as us. So Kansas City, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, what are these cities doing to alleviate some of these problems? And they face the same aggregate problem that we face here today. And so what they started to do is to source higher spec aggregate from other parts of the country where the rock is more durable and doesn't disintegrate in the weather band that we have here from the freeze and thaw cycle. Or what they also do is they begin to lay down asphalt. And so asphalt is, one, it's resistant to the salt and sand that we lay down during the snow removal process, and also it's something that's quick and easy that we can lay down a 5-mile stretch for the taxpayers relatively easy.
But isn't that higher quality aggregate, isn't that more expensive on the front side?
If it's okay if it's more expensive on the front side, if it's going to last longer, we're not going to continue to see the problems that we face here in Omaha from a road perspective.
You mentioned on your website, you say vision and strategy are at the heart of any organization's success, and you say you have a big vision to unlock new sources of growth.
Yep.
What's that vision, and what are those sources?
Yep, so I think the big vision is that we need to find ways that we can retain and attract talent here in the city. We also need to be able to drive in businesses here into the city. And so if you look at Omaha's history, right, since like the year 2000, not only have we lost ConAgra, but we used to have the headquarters to ACI, First Data, Aquila Energy, CSG, and Enron at the time. And so for some reason, these companies came here originally, but now they've since have left. And so what are the problems? And so I spent some time. I have a lot of clients that are in the ConAgra organization at the senior executive level, and so just started to pick these guys' brains as far as what what are some of the key areas that you think maybe Omaha's missing out on? And so one of the ideas that I put forward is the site idea for our riverfront to actually finish the riverfront with an NFL stadium. And the reason why I propose this is a couple different fronts. One is that we already send thousands of people to Lincoln every Saturday in the fall, where they're going to fill up the restaurants, the shops, the hotels, and over $250 million in economic benefit goes there. So the University of Nebraska just came out with a study, and they say over $250 million in economic benefit goes to Lincoln because of the Cornhuskers. So they've created 3,400 jobs as a result of that, $87 million in salaries. And so why not have that same revenue, that same benefit that goes to Lincoln every Saturday come right down onto our riverfront? So drive community activity that's not off the backs of our taxpayers, because right now what we're doing is that we just continue to increase taxes, have these pesky the restaurant tax, also have the plug parking meters downtown sort of thing, and high property taxes. We got to look for other sources that aren't off the backs of our taxpayers.
Some people on the NFL issue, though, they may say that's real pie in the sky. I mean, that's getting a brand new team is just not going to happen. And they say trying to get an expansion team is difficult as well. And where on the riverfront do you put it where you don't start butting into like Carter Lake?
So as far as where you put it, I think there's a great spot near Gallup, which is what I had mentioned before and that you guys had played beforehand. That just overlooks the pedestrian bridge, a great view of downtown, great access east and west. Which I think is a great spot for it. And it allows us to finish off our riverfront, which I think is important, and what we have also been promising taxpayers for many years. But if you look at Omaha, we have 450,000 people in Omaha, 1.3 million within a 60-minute drive. So we have the people and the football love to be able to fill a stadium. And it doesn't need to be like the TD Ameritrade Park that sits idle for 50 weeks out of the year. This scene could be multi-purpose, where we have concerts and have venues. We also bring in professional soccer teams that want to travel through and stop by, like USA, the USA soccer team. And you have training camp, preseason, all the regular season games. So it's something that expands more than just a couple weeks out of the year. But if you look at Omaha's history, I mean, we used to have leadership that said, okay, let's figure out how to get this done. So for example, like in 1954, we had the Union Stockyards of Omaha back in South Omaha, and that mega operation employed 5,000 people, facilitated the movements of tens of thousands of animals per day, and our leadership got together and they said, how can we beat out Chicago? How can we beat out Kansas City stockyards? And in 1955, we became the world's largest livestock market here. And so it's that can-do spirit. And I believe that there are definitely other issues facing Omaha, and I understand that, and I'm glad to talk about those.
Have you talked
today.
to the NFL at all? Have you talked to USA Soccer? Have you talked to any of these sports organizations?
Yep. So I've had a couple of phone calls with the people at the NFL, but it is going to take a sitting mayor, it's going to take a governor to really move the ball forward, and take a community to rally around it. And I say, why not put, get our name at the top of the list for an expansion team, and even go and talk to the owners, talk to a GM about doing this. We've seen movement in the NFL already this offseason of teams moving from cities, and so if we want to be forward thinking, this is something that we can chase after. Again, I know there's other issues that are plaguing us at this moment that we need to come and address, but this is something I think we should pursue.
All right. Well, we want to take a quick break. There's a lot of other issues we want to get to. We want to talk about public safety. We want to talk taxes. But right now we want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with mayoral candidate Taylor Royal when KATV News Watch 7's Commitment 2017 Chronicle continues. You're watching KATV News Watch 7's Chronicle, and joining us this morning is mayoral candidate Taylor Royal. I want to continue our discussion. We mentioned public safety. Your viewpoint, are we doing a good enough job in public safety right now, and what would you change?
Yep, our men and women in public safety, men and women in uniform, firefighters, I have the utmost respect for and know these guys who do the training, who are in leadership there, and I know these guys pour their heart and souls into making sure that the men and women in uniform are prepared and that they can protect us as Omaha citizens well, and I think they're doing a great job. So I want to give them every support that I can from a mayor's perspective. I've sat down with some of their leadership, and there's a couple tweaks that I would make in regards to their scheduling and how many hours are on the clock and how many days a week that they work straight. And so would want to do a couple pilot programs in that regard. But I think our men and women, our firefighters and our police officers are doing a fantastic job keeping them safe. If you look at the average ratio for police officers and firefighters. We do need to beef that up in the city to just one. We need to that will help us ensure that we protect our citizens better, and then also, protect the people who are out there on force as well.
So you're talking about putting more officers in cruisers and more firefighters on trucks?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, how are you going to pay for that?
Yep. So the way that I want to modernize city services, I think, is where that we're going to be able to expand and be able to pay for some of these things. And so part of my idea is that we have a new vision for how we provide services to our taxpayers. And so kind of shifting gears, if you look at, I'll give you an example. If you look at road maintenance, for instance, what it takes to, fill a pothole in our street. It takes, usually 2 trucks out there. There's a bunch of guys that are standing around in uniform that they're, putting the asphalt or filling a pothole, right? And so as a taxpayer, we are paying for that. We're paying for their health care. We're paying for their pension. We're paying for the truck, the repairs on the truck, and all the equipment. And so if we could look for strategic opportunities where we could outsource that to a professional company like a Kiewit, a Hawkins, or a Verana to be able to provide these services and leverage their capabilities, that is going to drive down costs for us as taxpayers. And so, I mean, these guys already lay down, thousands of miles of interstate and other roadways, and so why not leverage their capabilities and talents? It's much cheaper to manage a contract for these companies than it is to have whole layers of department and personnel in our public works, pay again for their pension, pay again for, their retirement and everything. And it's a way that we can free up costs to make investments in these services.
So take money out of public work necessarily and put it toward privatization.
It's just being more strategic with where we're putting our dollars, absolutely.
Anything else you would privatize?
Yeah, I think we need to look at just have a top-down review of all the city services that we provide and make sure that we're stewarding and our taxpayer resources and spending our dollars wisely. And so everything from landscaping to the way that we, check the parking meters, I think that, what we would do is that we could put a lot of these services out to bid, and you're going to have a whole lot of companies here in the city that are raising their hands that want to help out the taxpayers, that want to help out to make our Omaha a more efficient place.
Okay, let's talk about taxes. Always a huge issue. Yep. Restaurant tax, get rid of it.
Restaurant tax. So the reason why we're even talking about the restaurant tax this year is because Mayor Stothert did not follow through on her word to remove it. And so as mayoral candidate, I said that I wanted to remove it. So strategically, I think that we can get rid of it 25% at a time. So I'm going to put forth 4 separate budgets that will remove the restaurant tax 25% each of the years. And what that equates to is about $8 million. So that's less than 1% of our budget that we'd be getting rid of every single year, and follow through on what Mayor Stothert said she was going to do. And so it's funny in doing the research on, is this something that we can actually get rid of? Mayor Stothert 4 years ago was running against Jim Suttle at the time, and I just remember him saying, like, Mayor or Stothert, you cannot get rid of this thing just because of if you do, we're going to have a huge budget shortfall. And she was just saying that this is something she could absolutely get rid of. And 4 years later, here's where we stand. And so 2 things happened. One is that she didn't look at the budget and didn't know she couldn't get rid of it at the time, and so she was maybe ignorant about it. Or 2 is that she was dishonest. If she knew that she could not get rid of the restaurant tax with the voters, and she said that she was going to anyways, I think that just shows a little dishonesty. But I want to follow through on what I say, and so I think that we can be a little bit more strategic about it and get rid of it a quarter each year.
And you think the city could handle that $8 million hit every year?
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. Let
me ask you this. Should Omaha be in a sanctuary city?
No.
No, not at all?
No.
I mean, why not?
Why not? I think that we have areas in town, like North Omaha, for instance, where we can really promote, young men and young women to find jobs that possibly people who aren't here legally are taking. And so I think this is an important issue, and I've spent a lot of time and I had the incredible opportunity to meet with the Root family and just kind of hear their daughter's story and talk with them. But I'm going to protect our citizens here in this city and promote them and promote their well-being. And I don't think that Omaha should be a sanctuary city.
Do you like the idea of a streetcar?
I do not. So as a taxpayer, I think this is a crazy idea, and I don't think it's stewarding our resources well. So if you look at the streetcar idea, it's going to cost about $130 million. If we have that money, why don't we plow these into our streets? Why don't we put that money to really strengthen our street and that everybody uses? The whole idea of a streetcar, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, you got to say, what is the benefit going to bring? Well, I can tell you probably during our winter time, you're not going to have people that are going to come park, get out of their cars, head into a streetcar, and take that thing down, to their place of business. That's not going to happen. We're a 20, 30-minute drive city here, and I think if we have that $130 million, we should absolutely plow that into our streets. They're also talking that it's going to cost $8 million to run every single year. And so if you look at Omaha's Metro right now, the Metro busing, what do you think that a ticket fare actually makes up of the annual operating costs that we have? Yeah. Not very much. It makes up 14%, right? And so the rest of that has to be ladled, is taken from property taxes, taken from the wheel taxes, taken from the restaurant tax to make up for that annual shortfall. And so this is the same thing that we're going to find ourselves with this streetcar. I'm completely against it. I absolutely think that we should pour that money into our streets and fixing and re-strengthening our streets. Gotcha. I think it's a crazy idea.
And briefly then, is there a public figure or a political figure with whom you closely align yourself?
Closely align myself. That's a good question. I will say that. So I voted for Donald Trump for president, and I'm very optimistic of the way and his vision for where he's going to take the country. And it kind of saddened me when I was doing research and when this vote came up, because I took this vote very seriously, and just to come to find out that Mayor Stothert pretty much punted on this issue, that she voted and wrote in John McCain, somebody who wasn't even running. And I know she has her reasons for that. But if we're going to be looking for infrastructure spending, if we're going to be looking to really strengthen Omaha, then I think that we're going to need to really partner with our president as much as we can, and really, his vision for America, I think, was pretty plain, and that's what I want to do here in the city.
Okay, very good. We're going to be right back with some final thoughts. First, a reminder, your comments are an important part of the show. If you want to be heard, email your comments to news@ketv.com. Want to hear from you? Tell us what you think about Taylor Royal and his candidacy. We'll be right back. This is KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. For the past 30 minutes, we've been talking with Taylor Royal. He wants to be the next mayor of Omaha. Don't have much time left, but Mr. Royal, I want to give you a minute to make a final pitch to the voters, so go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm running for mayor of Omaha because I believe that Omaha is ready for a new vision, and we need new leadership here in this city. If we keep on electing the same politicians, whether you're Republican or Democrat, we're going to continue to get the same results. But I'm a CPA, I'm a businessman, and so I look and face our challenges from a math and a strategy perspective. And so I've laid out a clear vision and strategy for how we face and solve our challenges here in Omaha. Everything from maintaining our streets in a way that makes you proud and keeps you safe, to really strengthen and revitalize and do the heavy lifting that we need to do in North Omaha. And then also to steward our taxpayer dollars well, and to spend our dollars wisely. And as well to create an environment where companies are going to want to come in and invest and grow and expand here in this city. And so that is my new vision for the city. And I'll be truthful and honest with you. And with that, I hope to earn your vote and your trust on Election Day.
Good. All right, Taylor Royal, thanks so much for being here this morning and sharing your ideas with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, throughout the month, we will be talking with the rest of the candidates running for mayor. We'll have those shows, this one and the one we did with Christopher Geary, online at ketv.com. Just look for the link on our Facebook page, or you can Google the candidates' names and the word Chronicle. Don't forget, the primary is April 4th. Deadline to make sure you're registered to vote is March 17th, and the first date you can vote early is Monday, March 20th. I'm Rob McCartney. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday morning for another edition of KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.